Beautiful, man. Living hope. That's not like a cheesy Hallmark card Christian saying. Right? When we sing living hope, it's in opposition to a dead hope, a hope that doesn't have any practical, real life implications for us, a dead hope that doesn't actually help us when we need it. Right? That's not what this is. It's a living hope that actually helps us navigate the most difficult times of our life. You know, I think some people think like, oh, when I become a Christian, that means nothing bad's going to happen to me, right? And Jesus said the exact opposite. He says that in this world you will face hardship, you will face difficulty, but take heart, I've overcome the world, right? He's a living hope that helps you get through the darkest times. You know, we had a student from our youth ministry, from Peak City Youth, just a couple weeks ago, which by the way, if you're not at Peak City Youth on Sunday nights at 5 o'clock, what are you doing if you're a student, man? You got to be there. But we had a student who went through a really difficult time over this last month, lost a loved one that meant a ton to him. And when his mom checked in on him just to say, like, how are you doing? How are you coping? How are you processing through all this? His response was, Sunday can't get here fast enough. He's like, because Sunday is when I get to hear about Jesus and learn about Jesus and worship Jesus and get surrounded and filled up by people who believe what I believe in. And Jesus is actually helping me through this time. And you need to know, if you're new, you're in a room full of people that is their story. We might have sang it a second ago and you might not have been fully aware of it, but you were singing the truth of your story. Is there anybody here whose life has been changed by Jesus? He's met you during a difficult time. Come on, let's sing it one more time, but let's sing it with some purpose, man, some conviction in it. Come on, man, let's do it.
Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your very body began to breathe out of the silence. The roaring lion declare the grave has no claim on me. 'Cause Jesus yours is the victory. Come on, we celebrate. Sing hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me, 'cause you have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Sing Jesus, Jesus Christ, my living hope. We thank you, Jesus. Woo.
It's snowing and it's butt cold out there, but it's warm and awesome in here, man. Oh, I cannot believe what the heck are we experiencing outside right now. Oh, man, but I'm so pumped to be with you. I know there's people that are here for the very first time. I talked with several that were here in our first service, and we should never forget how big and bold of a step it is to come to church for the first time. So, church, can we put our hands together and welcome everybody who came for the first time? That's a big deal. It's awesome, man. I'm pumped to share this message with you that God has given me for you this week. So before we get into that, would you make this place feel warm and welcome? Turn around, give some hugs, some high fives, meet some people. Make it feel like home. And then let's go. My guy. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Man, school is almost out. It's out for some. It's almost out for others. That's a good thing and a bad thing. More time with your kids and more time with your kids. But man, I'm so excited for summer here. And as school wraps up, you know, over the past couple weeks, I spent some time in all three of my kids' classes and just doing end of the school year activities with them and all that jazz, right? And it was so fun being with them. Also, if there's one job I could never do in my entire life, it is that of an elementary school teacher. Whatever they're getting paid, my God, it's not enough. Amen. Could never do it though. I sat in all through my kids' different classes, and it was funny. Like my middle child Solomon, his teacher was doing like end of the year awards, and so every kid gets one. It's just like a character trait award, and I was really worried for Solomon. I'm like, what award is she going to give this insane child? Like, I love him, but he's insane. Like, the night before this award thing happened, I got him on video doing a new way of doing a hoverboard. So go and throw that up there. This was him on the hoverboard the night before. I'm like, I can't do it. I'm like, this kid, there's no guarantees with him, man. Was it Coolio? The way, will I live to see 24? The way things are going, I don't know. That kid might not live to 24, man. He's crazy. But she gave him the boldness award, right? Boldness. And I thought that was so cool that of all the things she could have said about him. And that's true. Like, he is bold. But I love how she defined boldness. It was the courage to say or do what is right, true, and just. Right? And that's a beautiful definition. And it's no coincidence. It's so funny that he got that award on the same week that I was writing a message on boldness. Because that's what we're talking about today is the concept of boldness. Specifically boldness within the movement of Jesus. And I think it's really, really, really important for us to talk about boldness. Even if you're here and you're not sure what you believe about faith. Like if you're not certain that you're, in on the church or in on Jesus or any of that, I think it's really important for us to talk about boldness because boldness is actually kind of confused right now within the movement. You can take my son's award down. It ain't that big of a highlight. Boldness is kind of confused right now. In the movement of Jesus. We see boldness, like some of you are here and you are skeptical of faith, skeptical of church, and you got good reason to be skeptical of it because you've seen some examples of Christians who are bold and it's been the biggest turnoff ever because their boldness was more like them being a jerk, right? Like the way I see it, that boldness within the movement of Jesus, like the willingness to share, do, and say what is right, true, and just. There's really two camps of boldness right now within the movement. There's boldness that is misguided, right? There's some people that are bold and they speak the truth and they speak out, but it's really misguided and it comes off really hateful. As a pastor, I get to see this actually quite a bit. It's so funny. About every 6 to 12 months, there'll be someone that comes through our church that does not like our church, and they are very, very bold about it, and they come find me in the lobby. All right, so about a year and a half ago, we had a guy that came through, and he was full of boldness. He comes up to me in the lobby and just starts yelling at me, just chewing me out, right? And he's sticking his finger in my chest, yelling at me. I'm like, bro, you don't know where I'm from. You don't know, like, I'm from a place in Kentucky where if you stick your finger in someone's chest, I'm going to lay you out. I will end up on the news. He's just chewing me out. He's chewing me out, saying, man, you've got to condemn people whose lifestyles are different than ours. You've got to condemn this world that thinks that what they're doing is okay. God sees it as sin. You got to tell them. And you're not using your platform the way you should. And he's just sticking. And I'm like, bro, first off, you got to get a Tic Tac. Oh, my God. And then what I wanted to say is like, you don't know this, but there are unmarked security guards, safety team people here, and they are big, bad men, and you don't want to mess with them, and they will escort you out if you don't get your finger on my chest. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, 2 guys from our church come up and grab him by an arm and just escort him off. I was like, I told you they're going to get you, man. That's a warning to some of y'all out here. We got safety people here. I'm mobbed up. But it's misguided. It's boldness, right? It's the truth, but it's being a jerk. It's misguided boldness. We see a lot of it today in the movement of Jesus. A lot of people, keyboard warriors, post the bold thing, send. The bold truth, they need to hear it, send. That's misguided. But then you got this other camp of people, and it's not that their boldness is misguided, it's that their boldness is missing. And I think that's actually a lot of us in the room is like, we don't want to speak up about Jesus. We don't want to speak up about faith. We don't want to invite anybody to church because we don't want to look like those crazies. And so we say nothing. And it's not that we're a jerk to other people. It's that we're a doormat.
And we see other people doing things that are hurtful to their future, and we know we should say something, but man, I don't know, like that's their life. Just let them do their thing. All right, so we stay silent, and we stay quiet because our boldness is missing. But here's the deal. In the 21st century American world we live, in the movement of Jesus as it stands right now, what we need right now more than ever is boldness. And I believe it's difficult to be bold right now, right? Like, it's this weird thing, let me go off on a little side tangent here. It's this weird thing right now. We're told in America that you need to keep your faith private, right? Don't share anything. Keep your faith to yourself. But a faith is just a worldview, right? Like a faith is like, I believe in Jesus, therefore it influences everything else that I see, right? It's the lens through which I have my morals and my values and my direction and the way I see things. So I'm supposed to keep that private, but everyone else is allowed to say and think whatever they want? Like, that's just weird, right? Like, we've done this weird thing with faith where we say you got to keep it private, but we know. We look at the world around us. What is needed right now is boldness. But I think both the culture we live in, and I believe the devil himself is trying to attack your boldness and snuff it out. But I think right now what you need more than ever is the kind of boldness, not misguided, not missing. You need the kind of boldness that Jesus and his earliest followers had. Because they had a boldness, but it wasn't misguided, it wasn't missing, it was magnetic. It drew people in to the movement. They shared the truth and they shared the love of Jesus in a way that actually intrigued people. People who were nothing like Jesus liked Jesus. People who were nothing like his earliest followers were like, ooh, the church, what is this? I'm very, very interested. They had a magnetic boldness to them. And I think today we're going to see how to have that magnetic boldness. And if you're here and you wouldn't consider yourself a follower of Jesus, you're not sure what you believe yet, this message is really focused on people who do believe. But I think even if you don't believe, you're going to be shouting me down and amen. Because you know that if the church would live like this, our world would be a better place. You'll see it and you'll go, oh, yeah. If Christians across America did that, this would be a very different situation that we're living in, all right? Magnetic boldness is what we're after today. Acts chapter 3, if you have a Bible and you want to get there, we're going to jump in right where we left off last week. Acts chapter 3, and we're going to be in chapter 4 a little bit. But we're going to be talking about boldness. Y'all ready? All right. Acts chapter 3, remember, so if you're new with us, the context of what we're reading right now is Peter and John, some of the earliest followers of Jesus, have just miraculously healed a man who was crippled his entire life. It was this amazing display of the power of God. And now we're going to jump in and see that the crowds are like, whoa, what has just happened, all right? Acts chapter 3, we're starting in verse 11. It says this, while the man held on to Peter and John, the man who'd been healed, all the people were astonished and came running to them in the place called Solomon's Colonnade. When Peter saw this, he said to them, notice the boldness, fellow Israelites, why does this surprise you? Why do you stare at us as if by our own power or godliness we made this man walk? No, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of our fathers, he has glorified his servant Jesus. You handed him over to be killed, and you disowned him before Pilate, though he had decided to let him go. You disowned the holy and righteous one and asked that a murderer be released to you. You killed the author of life, but God raised him from the dead. And we're witnesses of this. By faith in the name of Jesus, this man whom you see and know was made strong. It is by faith in the name of, it is Jesus' name and the faith that comes through him that has completely healed him, as you can all see. Now, fellow Israelites, I know that you acted in ignorance, as did your leaders. But this is how God fulfilled what he had foretold through all the prophets, saying that his Messiah would suffer. Repent then, and turn to God, so that your sins may be wiped out, and that times of refreshing may come from the Lord. Now, pause. A lot of bold things said in there. Some of y'all read that and you're like, yeah, that's the kind of boldness I'm used to seeing in Christians. He sounds like a jerk, telling everybody, you killed the author of life. You did this. You should repent. You need to turn to God. Some of y'all are like, man, that's the kind of boldness, brashness that I'm used to seeing from Christians. And some of y'all are like, preach it, Peter. Tell them the truth. Get on your soapbox, young man. Let's go. Here's the deal, though. There's a detail in here that you have to understand that preceded his boldness. See, there is nothing that he just said that is untrue. All right? There's nothing he said. It's not that it was false. It's true. They killed the author of life. And it's true that God raised him from the dead. And it's true that they need to repent, which means to turn away from their old life and to start a new life with Jesus. All that's true. But notice what happens before he says a word. It says that while the man held on to Peter and John, all the people were astonished, and they came running to them. They came running to them asking for answers. They came running. See, the boldness of Peter came after the display of the power of God. It came after. Peter and John didn't come into town and start preaching, bold, 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 in your face truth, in your face truth. They came to town and they healed a man. And they showed love and care and concern for someone who society had disregarded. And then they were bold. See, this teaches us the truth that we have to learn. We have to learn about the magnetic boldness that Jesus had and his earliest followers had, is that you must earn the right to be heard. If you're going to be bold for Jesus, you must earn the right to be heard. Before you go off writing that angry social media post, you need to ask yourself, have I earned the rights to be heard? You see, this is probably one of the biggest problems in the movement of Jesus, is that we got so many Christians that want to be heard, but they don't want to put in the legwork of loving people to develop the trust so that they can be heard. Right? You have to earn the right to be heard. And this isn't just a church problem, it's like a societal problem. This is everywhere. Nobody wants to earn the right to be heard anymore. All right? Look at your workplace. There are probably some new employees in your workplace right now that they want to be heard. They want the influence, right? But they ain't putting in the legwork of earning that promotion, of earning that voice of influence. They want it now, though. Right? We see it online. We see it on Twitter, on Instagram. How many young 20-something influencers are out there when they have nothing worth influencing? They haven't even lived a life yet. Their brains aren't even fully developed. And they're like, listen to me, I know how to live life. Really? We don't want to earn, we see our coworkers living a life that's opposite of what God wants for them. And we feel the need to tell them. But we don't want to spend the time it takes to actually love people and actually develop trust and actually earn the right to be heard. And now here's the deal. My wife and I have done a lot of things wrong that God has taught us through, but I'm not going to have this fake humility that acts like we haven't done a few things right. This is one thing that I feel like we have tried to implement in our lives, and we have seen the fruit of it. We've seen the fruit. About 7 years ago, we were serving in a church in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we were given the assignment to go start a church in the middle of downtown Indy. And downtown Indy was a place where there were really no growing churches. Most churches that went there just died. There was really nothing happening. And so we were given this task to go in and start a church in the middle of the city. And everyone told us it wouldn't work. And we understood why. Like when we moved our family downtown, there was really no one like us. Right? There was no one that went to church. There was no one that held our values. There was no one that held our beliefs. There was no one that was really like us. And we felt it, like we could see through our interactions just at neighborhood hangouts and following them on social media, like these people really didn't want anything to do with church. And so my wife and I, knowing what we've read in Scripture, we said, you know what? We can't move into the neighborhood and just start preaching. We got to prove to these people, first and foremost, that we're normal. You know that's the bar for Christians these days? I'm telling you, Christians, there is such a low bar for acceptance in our society. If you're just normal, people are like, whoa, they're amazing. Oh my gosh, I wonder what's up with them. If you're just a normal person. So we moved the neighborhood, we started going to parties and hanging out with them and just being normal, friendly people, right? About 6 months into our time there was a post that went up. How many of you are familiar with the app Nextdoor? All right, Nextdoor. It's like Facebook, but worse. It's like Facebook for your neighborhood. It's bad. There was a post that went up, and I'll never forget, the subject of it said, anti-gay church sends their anti-gay pastor to the neighborhood to save the city. And it was a whole post about me. And it went up, and it was insane. I mean, like, it couldn't have been further from the truth. Like, our church preached Jesus. Yes, it preached the traditional Christian sexual ethic that Jesus taught and has been lived by the followers of Jesus for 2,000 years. But that also includes that we're all messed up and we're all broken. We all got issues, right? But our world knows nothing of nuance. You know, like you either hate people or fully accept and affirm everything that they believe in. It's the only two options today, right? Apparently. And so I saw this post go up, and I was like, this is it, Brittany. We're done. This is the end of our church. This is the end of our ministry. Packing up and going back to the suburbs. I mean, seriously, it just looked bad. And it was so far, it just wasn't us, right? But I'll never forget the first person that commented on that post was our neighbors to the right, a gay couple that we'd become very good friends with. They were some of our best friends, dearest neighbors, some of the best neighbors we ever had in our life. And one of them comments on that post, Petey and Brittany are some of the most kind and decent human beings I've ever met. This is so fake. Please take this post down. And I was like, we did it! It's like, Brittany, we haven't gotten a lot right, but we got this one right! Oh my gosh! And it's just because we had earned the right to be heard. They could write whatever they wanted to write about us, but the proof was we were neighbors to them and we loved them and we were just good, normal people and we had earned the right to be heard. And sure enough, in the months that followed, we saw many people on that street, including that couple, come to church. We saw many people on that street give their lives to Jesus and we saw that church take off. But it's because we didn't come in and say, we've got the truth, you need to listen to us. We came in and said, no, we first are going to love. We're first going to extend the love and the mercy and the compassion of Christ to earn the right to be heard. You see, people need to see God in you before they hear God from you. That's the litmus test for anything you're going to do from now on. If you feel the need to talk about some coworker's lifestyle choices or decisions, have they seen God in you? If the answer is no, they don't need to hear God from you. When you get all riled up on the inside, which by the way, I believe when you get offended on the inside, when you get all fiery and passionate on the inside and you feel like you've just got to type that post, that's the devil working inside you. Because let me tell you, 99% of the people that you're friends with on Facebook, they have not seen God in you. And so therefore, they do not need to hear God from you. See, and this is just modeling Jesus, right? This is just modeling Jesus. Jesus, before he calls a tax collector to pay back everything he had stolen, he first has them over for dinner and dignifies their existence. Before he calls an adulterous woman to leave her life of sin, he speaks to her as if she's an equal and gives her worth and value in the midst of a culture that wanted nothing to do with her. Before he calls the disciples to abandon their careers and follow him, he helps them catch more fish than they'd ever caught in their lives. You got to love people first. You got to earn the right to be heard. Before they hear God from you, they've got to see God in you. And I'm telling you, if you would embrace that, skeptics in the room, those of you that are watching online that are maybe not followers of Jesus, you know that if Christians did this, how much different would our country be? How much different would our world be if all the Christians, all the people who say they believe in Jesus, say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to earn the right to be heard. We're just going to love really well until we've earned the right to be heard. You know it would change everything. It's magnetic. And I've seen it, but you see it here. I mean, it worked. Skip with me to chapter 4, verse 1 through 4. This is what happens after Peter preaches this bold message after he's healed this dude, after he loved people. Then he was bold. Look at what happens, verse 1. It says, the priest and the captain of the temple guard and the Sadducees came up to Peter and John while they were speaking to the people. And they were greatly disturbed because the apostles were teaching the people, proclaiming in Jesus the resurrection of the dead. And they seized Peter and John, and because it was evening, they put them in jail until the next day. But catch this. But many who heard the message, that bold message, believed. So the number of men who believed grew to about 5,000. Now, if you're keeping notes, a couple weeks ago, he preached a bold sermon, and 3,000 gave their lives to Jesus. That means in this moment of boldness that he had earned, 2,000 people gave their lives to Jesus. It's magnetic. You want to grow the movement, you want to take the gospel to as many people that need to hear it as possible, you got to love first. You got to earn the right to be heard. Now, some of y'all hear that, and you're like, that's awesome. I can earn the right to be heard every day, but I could never say what Peter said. Right? Some of you are like, whoo, that's great. I can be a good neighbor. I can be a good fellow employee. I can love people, but there ain't no way I'm going to be able to say what he said. That's crazy. Like that kind of boldness there's no way you could be bold like he is bold. And I feel like if that's you, you just need to understand Peter was not always that bold. Right? It's good for us to have to understand transformation stories. When you see someone you really respect, you really admire, it's good to do a little research on them and to go back and realize that they weren't always like that. Like, I know I get a lot of hate in the room for being a Tom Brady fan. I'm a big Tom Brady fan. But this amazing, suave, debonair man who married a supermodel and is king of the NFL, and it's not even debatable. I want you to understand, Tom Brady was not always Tom Brady. Look at my man in middle school. If there's hope for this kid, there is hope for you, okay? The transformation is possible. It is very, very possible, okay? Peter was not always this bold. Remember, this is the same Peter that denied ever even knowing Jesus the night that he was crucified. Complete coward. His boldness, it was a work in progress. It was a transformation process. But if you want to be bold like Peter was bold, you need to understand where his boldness came from. Look with me at verse 13. Verse 13. This is after he's been questioned by the Sanhedrin, after they've been questioned by the leading religious experts of the day, and he preaches the gospel boldly again to them. Look what it says. It says, when they, the religious leaders, saw the courage of Peter and John, and they realized that they were unschooled, ordinary men, they were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. That's a good line if people feel like just being around you, like, oh, that person's been with Jesus. But since they could see the man who'd been healed standing there with them, there was nothing they could say. Then they called them in again, and they commanded them not to speak or teach at all in the name of Jesus. Stop being bold, they said, right? But Peter and John replied, which is right in God's eyes, to listen to you or to him? You be the judges. As for us, we cannot help speaking about what we have seen and heard. So their boldness came from what they had seen. I had a good friend of mine this week tell me that you become what you behold. You become what you behold. What you look to is what you end up becoming. And Peter, rather than looking to the present, I mean, come on, he was arrested, thrown in jail with threats of his life. Instead of looking to the anxiety of his present or the uncertainty of his future, instead he said, hey, I can't, you want me to shut up. You want me to stop being so bold, but I can't stop talking about what I have seen and heard. See, Peter, his boldness, it came from the fact that he had seen too much. He had seen too much. He saw the life of Jesus. He saw the death of Jesus. He saw the resurrection of Jesus. He had seen too much. And he could not shut up. He could not stop talking about what he had seen. It was impossible, right? But it wasn't just Jesus, it was himself. I mean, come on, here's Peter. Peter is standing in front of religious experts, the leading, most educated religious scholars out there, the guys who are supposed to tell everybody else who God is. Here Peter is standing in front of them as an uneducated, untrained fisherman, throwing down on them. Telling him, you think you know who God is, but let me tell you who God really is, right? You don't need a seminary degree. You don't need a college education. You don't need to be in church all your life to tell people about the love of God and everything that you've seen. Peter looked at his own life and he's like, the fact that I'm standing here, compared to who I used to be, I could never stop talking about that. Right? I could never. And then, come on, man, then there was this guy standing next to him that he had just healed. There was this dude who couldn't walk a couple days before, and now he's walking and jumping and dancing. He had seen too much. There's no way, because of what he was beholding, right? You become what you behold. He wasn't looking to his current anxiety. He wasn't looking to the uncertainty of his future. He was looking back on the past at the faithfulness of God. And when he saw the faithfulness of God, he could not shut up about it. I think God sent you here today. Some of you that are feeling like your boldness is missing, you feel like you don't have the courage to speak up about your faith. I think somebody came here today so that I could tell you, just like Peter has seen too much, you have seen too much. You have seen too much to shut up. You've seen too much to be silent. Some of you in this room, your marriage was on the brink of divorce. And there's no way you should have made it. And here you are today, right next to the person that you swore you'd never be able to forgive. You've seen too much. Some of you right now, you went through that divorce, you went through that difficulty, you went through that hardship, you went through that season of loneliness, and you had so many dark moments, you had so many suicidal moments, you had so much depression, you had so much loneliness, and now here you are surrounded by people that you love and that love you. You've seen too much. Some of y'all have been in the worst moments where you've received the worst diagnosis, you've received the worst news you could ever think of, the loss of a loved one, and you thought, I'll never get over this. I'll never heal from this. I'll always be wounded. I'll always be broken. And I will always have this pit in my stomach because of what just happened. And here you are with peace that cannot be explained. You have seen too much. You've seen too much to be silent. Because here's the deal. If God did it then, if you can look back on the past, forget the present, forget the future for a minute. If you can look back on the faithfulness of God and He did it then, He can do it again. For every person you look to who is struggling through depression and anxiety and worry, for every person you see in the present, you can look back on the past and see that God has brought you through it, and therefore He can bring them through it. But if you don't speak up, they're never going to know. Some of y'all, you've seen God give you forgiveness. You've seen God pull you out of financial ruin. You've seen God provide for you when you had no clue how you were going to make it. You've seen that in the past, and then you show up to work and you hear somebody struggling and talking about how they don't know how they're going to make it and how they don't know if they're going to have to sell their house and what they're going to have to do for a job. If you don't speak up and tell them about what God has done, where will they find hope? You have seen too much to be silent. You've seen too much to be quiet. Now, I want to be painfully and awkwardly real with you. Okay? I believe everything I just said. I believe it all. I think that if you have misguided boldness, you need to earn the right to be heard. And I think if you have missing boldness, you've seen too much and you got to start speaking up. I believe it all. But I'm going to be honest with you. It's so funny to preach a sermon on boldness and to get up here and say in front of you, I'm not entirely sure that that's the answer. I don't know. I wrestled with this message all week long. And, I mean, Brittany can attest to it. I was just banging my head against the wall like, something just don't feel right. Something just don't feel right. I had these points, and I believe them. I think they're right, and they're true, and they make sense, and they're tied together. They even all start with M, missing, misguided, magnetic. Did you catch that? I was like, yo, that's a sermon. And I got to the end of it, and I was like, I just don't feel right. Something ain't right. And I started realizing, I wrestled this thing to the ground for hours and hours and hours, and I finally came to the end of it, and I realized, I feel like God allowed me to wrestle through it so that I could say this to you, is that boldness in the 21st century for a Christian who lives in America is just more complicated than that. It just ain't that easy. We got a lot of cultural forces pressing up against us. We got a lot of self-doubts pressing up against us. There's a lot of situations that are just really tricky. And it's hard to know, like I started thinking, it's hard to know when to speak up and when to shut up. Because that's boldness, right? Boldness is the wisdom and the knowledge to know when to speak up and when to shut up. Jesus walks in the temple and he sees the church becoming this horrible, awful thing that's so greedy. And he goes in and he speaks up. He turns tables over and starts preaching at them. Bold. Then Jesus on the cross stretches his arms out and dies so that you could be forgiven, so you could be set free. And he's bold, but he goes to his death, he goes to his execution silently. He never defends himself. He knew when to speak up, and he knew when to shut up. And I got to be honest with you. Whatever circumstance you're thinking of, whatever situation you've got in life that you're dealing with, I don't know the answer completely as to how to be bold. It's complicated. It's tough. And I was feeling that. I was like, oh, that's it. That's the honesty. I just need to be honest with them and say, like, I feel so good about this message, but a message on boldness, I also feel uncertain. Boldly say, I don't know. And then I read that the disciples actually did the exact same, they went through the same thing. I kept reading in Acts chapter 4. If you read on down past it, you see that Peter and John get back from giving these bold messages. They speak this bold truth. They preach this bold gospel. And then they all come back, and all the believers are together, and they're talking. And everybody's like, whoa, you were so bold. And they're like, how do we do that? And you know what's funny is I don't read anywhere in chapter 4 like a 3-point TED Talk. I don't read any like specific how-to guide of how to be bold. What I read in Acts chapter 4 towards the end of it is that what they did is they all came together and said, we know we need boldness. We don't know how, but we're just going to pray. We're going to pray. Look at what they prayed in verse 30. It says, now, Lord, enable your servants to speak your word with great boldness. Stretch out your hand to heal and perform signs and wonders through the name of your holy servant Jesus. And after they prayed, the place where they were meeting was shaken. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and they all spoke the word of God boldly. They didn't listen to a fancy 2-point sermon that fit perfectly together and become bold. I'm sure they had some tips. I'm sure Peter had some tips for them along the way. What they did is they prayed for boldness, and God gave it to them, because boldness in the midst of this confusing cultural moment that we're in right now, boldness is a miraculous work of the Holy Spirit in you. I don't know when you should shut up and when you should speak up. But God does. And so what I want to do with our remainder of our short time together is I just want to do what they did. We're trying, like if you're new, we're trying to just have Peak City be this place that reflects the early movement of Jesus, that what they did, we do. And they prayed for boldness. They didn't pray, it's funny, like when you read the early church, the earliest followers of Jesus, they didn't pray for traveling mercies. They didn't pray for financial security. They didn't pray for an easier life. No, the number one thing they prayed for? Boldness. God, teach us how to speak up, how to shut up, how to love well, and how to not let our reputation keep us from saying what we know we should say. God, will you teach us boldness? And so I just want to do that today. In lieu of us having a time of decision, if you want to make a decision for Jesus today, decide to pray this prayer of requesting boldness. And then let's believe that God's going to do it. Let's believe that we're all going to walk out of here and we're going to be able to love really well this week and speak up really well this week. All right, so would you stand with me? And let's pray that together. Jesus, we love you, we love you, we love you. There's no sweeter name than Jesus. You know everything about us, and you love us all the same. You know the worst secrets we're keeping right now, and you love us all the same. You know the worst parts of our past, and you love us all the same. And so we just breathe in that grace and that forgiveness and that mercy. We're so thankful for it. We're thankful that when you stretched out your arms to die for us on the cross, that it enabled us to approach you with confidence. We don't have to hang our head in shame. We stand before you just as forgiven and loved and chosen, and it's just so beautiful, God. We thank you for it. But Jesus, right now, I ask you on behalf of every person in this room to teach us boldness. We don't know fully how to do it, God. We know that your faithfulness will inspire us. Your faithfulness in the past will inspire us. And we know that loving people in the present will help open doors for us. But God, we don't know exactly how to do it. But people called you rabbi, which means teacher. And so we're just asking you, Jesus, by the power of your Spirit, to teach us how to be bold. We don't want to turn people away from you. We want to draw people in to the life that we have found in you. So teach us, God. God, I know there are parents in this room right now. There are dads in this room right now that know that they need to be speaking more about you in their homes with their spouses and with their kids. They need to be praying together as a family. They know they need to step up and lead more in their home and be bold there. God, teach them. Teach us to be bold. God, I know that there's students in the room right now who have maybe just walked away from or about to walk away from some people at school and not see them for a whole summer, and they're going to be worried about them. God, would you teach them how to be bold in their love and bold in the way they share truth? God, would you teach me as I continue to share your word from stage how to be bold, how to know what to say and when to say it? God, I don't always know. God, would you teach us? I know there are business leaders in here right now who have employees under their supervision, who have organizations that are following them. God, would you teach them how to be bold? God, would you teach the person in the room that's just starting out in their new job how to be bold, how to walk in wisdom, how to love people well, and how to speak up when the time is right. God, would you teach us in this room right now how to be bold in worship? God, I know that maybe some people in this room, the first step in being bold is just lifting a hand during worship and saying, I don't care what other people think about me. I care what you think about me, God. Would you grow our boldness in that way? We just know we need you. We can't do it without you, but the movement is too important, Jesus. The work that you started, the church that you handed us to lead, it is too important, and we have seen too much in this room. We have seen too much in this church to be silent. So God, would you teach us? And we'll trust you for the rest. We'll trust that your Spirit will do it. And it's in the powerful name of Jesus we agree by saying, Amen.